Tuesday night. We feature our sponsors like Rinstar and all the good folks that somebody in the back making a noise with a hat on. We'll get to him in a minute. So, got some good news for you. Make that noise. The next thing I hear is the horn, no doubt. But anyway, folks, stand by. It's going to be a good show. Coming right up, we've got Chris Doring talking about big news for our colleague Shane Matthews. It's tonight we get David Whitley, a really entertaining writer and raconteur. We'll talk to, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Ram Hall. He's been a little under the weather. And Lauren Meadows will be along. So it's a jammed up night. And so stay tuned. There he is. The Buddy Martin Show is on the air. And it's going to be a miserable night.
Time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye!
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is called The Buddy Martin Show, and we are with you Monday through Thursday. So that's the dilly sign up there. I'm Buddy Martin. That's not me. There I am right there. Moving things around the studio. Lots of things going on here at the studio. Studio 12 in Ocala, by the way. And we've got Brendan Martin here doing some work in the back. Later he'll come on the show. We'll talk to him about some exciting news we heard today about our expanding audience. Man, I'm so excited about that. We've got a new sponsor I'm going to tell you about in a minute, and we're very, very happy. Things are going quite well for the Gator Nation Kingdom, which was the beginning, Gator Bait, and of course, the Buddy Martin Show. So glad to say good evening to all you folks as we check in now. First of the night, Becky Smith Carlisle is back in the pole position. Dan Bond from Dallas Dilly Dilly, Facebook user. Hey, buddy, is Lauren Meadows Tuesday? Yeah, he'll be on later. Cindy Neesmith, hello Gator Nation. David Baldoff, the usual dilly from the old G&K guy. Terrence Simmons, good to hear from you, Terrence. Andy McIntosh, what do you think of Shane being named? Well, we're going to wait for that. I'm going to tell you right now. So here it is. Today we talked to Chris Doring. We talked to him about him coaching and about his friend Shane Matthews, who had some news today. Unfortunately, Shane's not allowed to talk about it yet. But well, here's Chris Doring. Here's what he said. Chris Doring, SEC Network. Why haven't you ever coached?
I think for me, I always was interested. I think I would have been a really good coach. I think the things that made me a good player were the things that would be able to help me be a good coach. That's attention to detail. Like I wasn't as good enough athlete to just roll the ball out there and show up and beat everybody else. I had to use great technique. I had to understand the game. I had to pay attention to the little things. And I think those are the things that I'd be able to teach other receivers. And you look at guys like Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson, those guys are so good, they couldn't teach people how to do the things they did. I think I could certainly teach people how to do the things that I was able to do. It just, to me, when I would leave in the NFL, when I'd go home at 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon, and I'd see the coaches settling in for the next 8 hours at their desk, it just didn't seem like a very appealing lifestyle to me. During my 10-year career in the NFL, I got cut 10 different times. I moved over the country 22 different times. It was that same unsettled lifestyle. I think that was out there for coaches, too, that just didn't make it appealing to me.
Well, the news that one of your colleagues now has gotten a coaching job. His dad was the coach. And the news today, although he's not allowed to talk about it, is that Shane Matthews is the new quarterback coach of the XFL franchise in Orlando. I don't even know their names, but I'm so happy for Shane because he always wanted to be a coach. He's coached in high school, and now he gets to live his dream. So how do you think he'll do?
I think he'll do great. I mean, for all the reasons that I just talked about why I'd be a good coach, I think apply to Shane. I mean, Shane was an outstanding player, but I think what made him a guy that played in the league for 14 or 15 years was his knowledge of the offense, his ability to read defenses, knowing where to go with the football and throwing it accurately, using great technique. Like, those are things that I think he'll be able to teach the quarterbacks that he's coaching there. But I'm happy for him. I know, he's enjoyed that. That's where he belongs. And get a chance to do it with a fellow Mississippi boy there, and T-Buck is kind of cool too.
Yeah, that's right. Terrell Buckley. So, listen, be well. Great seeing you again. Enjoy you on the SEC network, and maybe we'll catch up at a game one day. You never know.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hopefully it's one in Atlanta in the SEC championship.
There you go. I'd go for that. Chris Doran for the SEC. Thank you, my friend.
See you, buddy.
All right, thanks very much, Chris. Glad for Shane. We're going to go right to what is now going to be the orange and blue room. Has been the green room, sponsored by our friends over at Main Street Community Bank. Check it out downtown. They are a independent FDIC insured, locally operated full-service bank offering a broad range of services. They are, of course, in downtown Ocala. Main Street Community Bank of Ocala. Community is our middle name. Sponsor of the Green Room, soon to be the Orange and Blue Room, on the Buddy Martin Show, where tonight we find one of my favorite writers in the whole world. And if you haven't been reading, you ought to. And that would be David Whitley. Good evening, David. How are you, my friend?
I'm well. So is it still the Green Room, or is it already the Orange and Blue Room?
It's going to be the Green Room probably for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
We're excited to announce some new sponsors, too, we've got coming up in October. We'll do that later after your segment. That's not
I
sure.
don't say it still looked green to me, but I could be colorblind.
We'll put yours whatever color you want it pink. We'll make it pink for you, whatever you want. It's okay.
Now orange and blue works for me.
Orange and works for you. Yeah, you got the good blue going on right now.
Yeah. You pump in maybe a little Tom Petty over the music.
Yeah, that'd be good too. We get dinged for that if we do it. We can't play that music because all that stuff. But how you doing? How you feeling? You went under the weather a little bit. Looks like you're kind of rallying for the better, and you're feeling all right.
Yeah, all's good. Yeah, oh God, millions of other people had to have my COVID bout, but I came through it pretty, no big deal compared to most people. Just had to quarantine. That was the main thing, and I haven't actually been to a game yet. Just been covering on TV.
I noticed that. I sure mentioned in the press box. Will you be at South Florida this week, or you?
Yes, barring some crazy relapse, I will be there.
Good, David. A lot to talk about over the weekend. We had a long conversation with Shane. How about Shane Matthews becoming a coach, the XFL, which is great. I'm happy for Shane.
Yeah. Well, first time I saw it, I thought, I'm still conditioned to think a football season is in the fall. And so I thought, what does this do?
Yeah.
He's going to be one busy son of a gun.
Yeah.
Then I read, oh no, XFL, and I heard an interview with Chris about you didn't know the name of the team. I had to remember. Yeah, that's the league that hasn't actually started yet, has it? Or did it start?
Well, I thought they kind of started and then stopped. I don't really know. Yeah. I'm not your expert on the XFL.
Right.
Now I can tell you about some of the other days back in the day when they had this renegade league called the AFL. I remember what happened then, and there was several leagues since that time. And the USFL, we know all about what Coach Spurrier did, and then I covered the Denver Gold back then. So I really liked it. I thought it was fun, but I'm a football guy, so I would, right?
Yeah. Well, and it'll, and then I saw who he has as his assistant. It's Terrell Buckley, I guess the head coach.
Right.
And then he brought in Shane and Lamar Thomas. Something, he's just plucking from all the big three from the glory days. Lamar Thomas is sort of epitomizes Miami swagger. And T-Buck, he was there during the glory days at FSU, and of course Shane is Shane. So they certainly should. The coaching staff alone should appeal to the college football fans in the state. Yeah,
I don't know. I got to get up on their rule books, and I guess the guy, I'm terrible at this. The guy who was from the wrestling world was the guy Vince McMahon, but he retired apparently. So I don't know what's going on. So
he started this XFL. The first one was like 20 years ago. And it was a combination of football and sort of the WWE, Raw, soap opera stuff, and it was just too cheesy for most people, and it died sort of died a deserved death. I think this is more just straight football, and but it has some pretty good backing. And I mean, the other league, spring league, actually did okay. The one that was just all played in Birmingham this past year,
Right.
Because I mean, people just want to watch football, and and as long as they keep the expenses under control,
Yeah.
And that's what they seem to have a pretty good business plan. They'll make a go of it.
Yeah. Our folks tuning in tonight, by the way, we're excited. We're going to announce a little later our expanding audience. Man, we had a great month. Fabulous. People are finally finding us. We're happy about that. So we'll tell you about that in a minute. I want to say shout out real quick to some people watching you, David. I had a really interesting email from a friend of mine yesterday, a guy who has his own site. He said, I love watching David Whitley. I can see why he and Buddy Martin get along so well together. They write alike. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm flattered if that's the case, but good to hear that. And a lot of folks are like, and by the way, folks, you can give us stars. We're okay with that. If you'd like to, let me say a quick shout to Joe Blackburn, our friend out in the state of Alabama, who's a pretty wise gentleman. We've been doing some things with him. And Joe, thank you for the shout out to Gator Bay. Now, David, you watched the game. You wrote about the game this past weekend. We kind of knew there was this, in the forecast that something could go wrong. We didn't. I thought they would win that game. I was wrong. And we can dissect it as many times as we want to. It's going to come out the same thing. But just give me your takeaway from the game and the loss to Kentucky.
Yeah, I thought that there was a bit of an overreaction as expected to the win, and there's probably a bit of an overreaction to the loss. The Gators weren't as great as people thought after Utah, and they're not as bad as some people think now. The truth is somewhere in between. The thing that sort of surprised me is Utah is a really good team. I thought it was probably equal to what we'd see from Kentucky, but after seeing Kentucky, I think Kentucky's probably the better team. Utah came in ranked number 7. Kentucky looked more like certainly on defense, a 7th ranked team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you could see the advantage that Stoops had just by getting one game tape that he could look at what Napier had going,
mm-hmm.
and especially with AR, as opposed to Utah. They were just trying to piece stuff together from Louisiana, and they didn't have much to go on. And it gets back to what as you said, we all sort of knew that when it can't, so much focus is on AR, and just the pyrotechnics. But the fact is, this was his 3rd start, and it looked like his 3rd start because he was going up against pretty. You got to say, I would at this point call Stoops a defensive mastermind for what he can do.
Okay, like his brother.
Yeah, and
people forget.
I mean, he schemed it up well, and and everybody knew, and Napier knew too, that that he was going to want AR to beat him with passing, not running, and he just put him in a position where he couldn't do it. And part of that was Anthony had a bad game, no doubt. I think Napier admitted he could have put him in better position a lot of times. His play calling wasn't I would rate it a C or so, and he didn't make the adjustments that he could have made, and the weaknesses that we knew were there on the outside with receivers, they sort of manifested themselves too. He doesn't have the kind of guys who are going to bail him out, and it just all came to fruition against a really good defensive team.
Didn't you think Ricky Pearsall looked pretty good though?
Yeah. I mean, Pearsall's good. You almost could see it coming. People talked about how he never drops a pass, and he catches 100 balls from the jugs machine.
Right. Now they're all doing it. They're saying there's like 8 guys down there doing it now.
Yeah. So when I said, jinx, says they're going to drop some today. Of course, I got to admit, I would drop it too when every ball's coming at you about 230 miles an hour, which is one of the issues that Anthony needs to work on.
Yeah, you gotta. And look, I mean, here's what I hate to repeat myself. I've done so many shows this week, I have to stop and remember which one I said what. But, as a former low-level athlete, and point out low level, played a little ball, and I always liken it to the days I went out to the mound to pitch. was a walk-on in Florida, and I played high school in Ocala. And it was 80-mile-an-hour fastball, knuckle curve, and that was okay. Yeah, but there were those days you went out there and you couldn't get the ball across the plate. You start trying to, as Brendan said today, you're trying to start guide it. And he had that look of something that he didn't have his best stuff, and he couldn't find in the zone. And I'm not an analyst, but I can see a zone. They drop 7, 8 guys all the time, and they only rest a couple. And they had some athletes at the linebacker position, by the way, and also the corner position. And he admitted, he said he got frustrated because he couldn't hit the open receivers, and quote, I lost my confidence. Now, that's never a good thing. As Shane and I were talking about, he said, I've never heard a quarterback or athlete say that before. I lost my confidence. Even though they lose it, they don't want to admit it. He was very honest. He stood up, came in locked in an interview room, which a lot of guys wouldn't do. I like the report I heard later from, it was Scott Carter, so I believe what he said. The report he got that when Anthony went home, came out of the dressing room, there was a bunch of kids throwing a ball. Allegedly, the dad said he stopped and threw the ball with the kids for a while, right?
Yeah.
Those are good signs that he's healthy. He hasn't totally lost himself. What do you expect out of Anthony this weekend against South Florida?
Oh, I expect a bounce back game. You do see the maturity level does seem to be there, and I don't want to totally gloss over what we saw that first game against Utah, because he did look like a much more polished quarterback and poised, and so you can see that he has made a lot of progress. But and it's cliche, but he is still a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. It's going to be there are going to be potholes and bumps in the road.
Mm-hmm.
After 2 straight games like this, you couldn't. They really needed a USF kind of game,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, just as a confidence builder. Now, I mean, USF, their coaches know what they'll scheme it up probably just like Stoops did, but they don't have Stoops' talent.
They don't have the players to run that zone like Kentucky did. And they're well coached.
So
I agree.
So I mean, I suspect that Anthony will be much more effective this weekend, and he's going to need obviously to go into Neyland Stadium. Is it Neyland or Neyland? I've been going over for 30 years and I still mispronounce.
It's Neyland.
Neyland. Yeah. Well, he's going to need all the confidence he can get, obviously, and the whole team going up there the week after.
Which brings up the interesting point, talking with Shane. I was on his show this morning. He was on my show last night. We talked about how good is Kentucky, whether Kentucky is the second best team in the East or not. And I kind of felt like Tennessee was the whole time. Now we'll see. Tennessee struggled against Pitt. But let's not forget, by the way, what happened in South Bend and what happened in College Station and what happened in Lincoln, okay? Those are not Power 5 teams. And by the way, Florida played back-to-back ranked teams. So let's get that on the record right now. But having said that now, who's the second best team in the East? Well, Shane thinks it's Tennessee. I thought it was Tennessee. I'm not all in on Kentucky yet. Who do you think the second best team in the East is?
Well, if you could take Tennessee's offense and Kentucky's defense, I'd say that they might give Georgia a game. But since we can't do that, I was selling Kentucky short, I think, and at this point, I think we all should know better to do that than to do that. Stoops always comes in with a good game plan, and they don't beat themselves, and Tennessee still on defense, I'm not sold. I mean, certainly on offense, they're impressive, but if they were to go head to head, that'd be a great game to watch to see that offense against Kentucky's defense. But I will. I'm leaning, and it may just be being prisoner of the moment after seeing it the other night. But I'm leaning Kentucky right now. But hey, 2 weeks from now I may be leaning Tennessee. But just considering what we thought Kentucky was going to be, they had supposedly Chris Rodriguez, or all this SEC back was out, and his backup was out, and they had a lot of new guys at offensive line, and they looked terrible in that first game offensively against Miami of Ohio. That's why I was thinking, it's just not going to happen against the Gator. But they came in here, and that offensive line, it did a pretty good job against what was, what a defense that had a pretty good game. I mean, overlooked in all this is how the Gator defense, I think, has really made some strides from
Played
last
good.
year.
I thought they played good. They still have tough. They're tough in the trenches. I thought Jermon Dexter played really well. Ben Cox played well. Trey Dean played well. I haven't heard the injury report. We'll get it tomorrow. But Ventrell Miller might be out. That's not good. That really hurts his team if Ventrell's not there.
Yeah, and if he's iffy, this is the kind of game, a good game to let him heal up. Anyway, I mean, hopefully it's not.
Well, if it's not going to be a long-term issue. By the way, I think Florida drew a little bit of a break not getting a night game in Knoxville at Neyland. They're going to play a 3:30 game, and Andy McIntosh says Knoxville is going to be a tough place to play with a quarterback lacking confidence. Any place is a tough place to play with your quarterback lacking confidence. I think Billy knows how to coach him. I think Billy is building his confidence back. But I said this morning, I've seen athletes who've lost it, and particularly in golf, it comes to mind. I've seen winners of the U.S. Open and Masters literally line up here, hit the ball here, and hit it that way, and couldn't stop it, and just about ruined their careers. And I interviewed Billy Casper, who won 2 Opens, I think, in a Masters and PGA, anyway, one time after he won a senior event. And he'd gone through a siege of the yips, and he couldn't hit the ball straight. And I asked him, what did you do? Guess what he did? He went back and got tapes of those golf tournaments where he won, and he watched it. He remembered how he used to do it. So some of that mind game stuff, and we'll see, because it would be a shame. And we've seen big league players who suddenly couldn't get the ball to the plate. Remember? It's happened. I mean, so I think Anthony is strong enough mentally, and I think Billy knows how to coach him, that he'll get past this, but it's not a good sign when your quarterback says something like that. All right, so let me read you a quote. Franz actually wrote it, and it was from Billy, and I want you to respond to it, Billy Napier. It's critical for you to learn from mistakes. I think it's critical that you have integrity, you tell the truth, and you make necessary changes. Then, hey, look, you've got to turn the page. I think part of this game is it teaches you a lot of lessons, and quickly you've got to learn to focus on the next task. Certainly that's what we're trying to do here. So I think he can move on. It's like they say about cornerbacks after they get beat. You have to have amnesia, right? You got to move on.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, sounds like a quintessential Billy Napier kind of thing that he said there. Learn from it, but don't dwell on it, because you don't want it to fester in your head. And they have a lot to learn from. I mean, Billy, he said himself, he learned from this game, I think, a lot. He pointed to places where he could have schemed them up better. And the next time, I think he will. He's not sitting there tonight thinking I'm not a good coach. He said he's learning. I have a hard time thinking that Anthony Richardson is thinking they're not saying I'm not a good quarterback. He's just thinking I had a bad game. And he owned that. And if anything, he just threw himself on the sword a bit too much. I mean, you're glad he owned it, but you want to say, hey, don't torture yourself over this, kid. It's okay. There are going to be these ups and downs, in everything. I saw one comment somewhere. I don't know. Someone said that they sort of wished he'd had a Tebow type talk, like after the loss against the lone loss in that 2008. Ole Miss. But I mean, this is total apples and I mean Tebow at that point. He was Tebow. And plus he had something of a better supporting cast with him at that point. This is a team that was primed to win a national championship. This one isn't. And so Anthony Richardson, he could not go out there and say, "I promise we will never lose another game." Right. Yeah. But he said, I think it was heartfelt and all that, because he is, he's a sensitive guy, and he wants to, gosh, there's a lot of pressure on that kid, being the hometown hero and all that, and I think he's handled himself very, very well considering it all, and he's learning. I mean, he's growing up before our eyes. If not just as a quarterback, but just as a person.
Yeah. One more thing for you, David. Let's talk. You, although you weren't there for the game, you could probably sense it. I got a question here from Andy McIntosh, one of our regulars, who said, "Buddy, what do you think of the crowd on Saturday? I heard groans. I guess GROADs, not boos. For the most part, they stayed until the end." Here's what I thought. I sat there and talked with friends and with Kyle about it in the press box. First of all, many of them arrived real late. It was not that sort of I can't wait to get there feeling, Secondly, there were gaps there were in the north, let's see, the southwest stands and the north end zone. Quite a bit. And of course, it rained. They had 89 plus people up that supposedly had capacity. They were not as lit, as they were for Utah. And of course, they had some bad news happen to them with the 65-yard interception. I thought the crowd was pretty good, but not anywhere near it was Utah. I'm not blaming the game on the crowd, but I mean, look, the expectations are high now. And if they don't go out and dazzle them, they're going to be like, oh, okay, where's our... And then I'm sorry to say I heard some idiotic comments, as you expect from people afterwards about Anthony. Are you kidding me? Put the backup quarterback in? What are you smoking, man? Come on.
Yeah, there really is no backup quarterback at this point.
Miller's hurt,
had Miller, if they had Miller there, you could see, all right, give him the way it was and the way Anthony was struggling.
Yeah.
You give it a shot, but you do not put a kid who's never taken a college snap in there against that defense at that point.
Yeah.
And it just, that's just not a realistic thing that you do. I doubt that they won't need Miller this week. I think it's first they said that he'd be out 2 games now. Yeah. It's sort of being
right.
But we don't know. But
I think they put Kitten in if the game gets ahead.
I think that they should put Kitten in if at all, just in case Miller is does have a lingering issue with that. And then you certainly don't want to put. If Anthony got hurt at Tennessee, you don't want to put Kitten in having never taken a snap.
Right. David Whitley, the Gainesville Sun, he's one of the best writers around. He's a great guest on this show. We thank you so much, David, once again. And we're glad you're better. I hope I may not be there myself Saturday, but we'll cross paths somewhere along the way on the Sawdust Trail and get back to being a couple of old-timers. Well, at least one old-timer and one junior old-timer.
I'm 3/4 of an old-timer.
Yeah. And keep up the good writing. I really enjoyed it. And if you haven't read David's stuff, go to the Gainesville Sun, get the column, because he is spot on. He does a really great job as a columnist. I appreciate you, David.
Well, I appreciate you, buddy, and we'll see you next week, I guess, in the orange and blue room, maybe.
There you go. Maybe the orange and blue buddy. You're listening. I appreciate that. All right, okay. David, thank you. David Whitley, thank you, buddy. Okay, Brendan Martin, if you're back there, let's do this now before we get our next guest on. I'm going to play this spot from Jeffrey Meldon, and then we're going to get Brendan on for a second here real quick. If not, let's do this Meldon spot.
A breaking story, okay?
All right.
So this year, my wife Patricia and I are chair people for the Alzheimer's Association. And Meldon Law was founded in 1971. So for every free throw made this year by both the men's basketball team and women's basketball team, Meldon Law is donating $19.71 to the Alzheimer's Foundation.
Nice. What's the 1971? When you started the law firm?
Yes.
Very good. That's a great story and a great idea. And it couldn't be for a better cause, because we know how devastating that disease is to a lot of people and families. Congratulations. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Meldon Law. Meldon Law.
Were you mad?
He won't back down. No. It's the new one, Freddie says. We won't back down. Brendan's he's back here with a can again, and he's got by the way, just so you know, you're not the king, you're the crown prince. Just remember that.
This is just, I'm just wearing a piece of history, is all.
Yeah, there you go. Listen, we got to look.
People think I'm just being ridiculous. Is actually.
Well, you are.
We should probably auction this thing off one day.
Yeah. So here's Dave Graham Hall. Before Dan gets on real quick, we have some really good news.
I look good.
And we got about 60 seconds to tell it.
I know, 60 seconds.
One of them is We have Graham Hall in the orange and blue room. We're going to get to him in just a second. We got Sammy here with us tonight.
Yep.
Great little dog. And Brendan, congratulations. You just busted loose. And because of your work, we had a monster month in terms of viewers. I believe it was 540. Well, hold on. For 28 days, 541% increase.
Oh, that was 741%.
Well, 541 is what it was. Anyway.
Okay.
Well, whatever I say, you're going to correct me, but congratulations.
Of course I am.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We had, I think it was over 500,000 reaches in 13 days. 541,000 reaches, 500,000 reaches that we had in the matter of. Don't touch my phone. You're going to break
Sammy's
my phone.
licking me on the arm.
And that's just for the Buddy Martin Show. That's just the viewers. That's people on our page. That's people, coming around. So thank you, everybody. We reached our goal of 10,000 followers in the Buddy Martin Show, and we did it in 2 weeks faster than our goal that I set on Facebook. So we did actually about 900 and change on new followers in a matter of like 13, 14 days. Thank you all who participated in the 10K by game day. It makes a difference for us, and now we go to work on creating more of GatorBait Media and GatorBaitMedia.com, and we're just gonna, thanks to Joe Blackburn, who's helped us quite a bit in understanding some of this stuff, and there's lots more to come. Right now, we just today announced that we reconnected the podcast. So those of you who like every day after the show's over, we take the audio and we make a podcast. You can search the Buddy Martin Show podcast now, and you'll get the show if you want to listen to it on the way to work or whatever in the morning. Should be there. And those YouTubers, you can now actually go to and subscribe to the Buddy Martin Show YouTube page. So just go to YouTube, search the Buddy Martin Show, and you'll see GatorBait Media as well. You look for those things, subscribe to the show, and you'll be able to watch the replay there too. Is this my buddy?
Okay, now we got to do this. We got to go. Well, Graham, but I want to say.
Well, I want to say hi.
Can I just do the show? It'll be all right. I want to announce our new sponsor. Thanks to Freddie Wiebe. We have a new sponsor for the Buddy Martin Show. We're excited.
We are excited.
Thanks to Titan MRI and what they do in Gainesville. We're going to tell you all about it here soon.
Thanks, Titan.
They will sponsor
Dilly.
They will sponsor Shane Matthews' segment on Monday. Congratulations to Shane, by the way. For the spring, will be coaching the USF franchise. And then he'll sponsor the Sunday Orange and Blue Bloods with Ben. And we'll have more news coming on that. We're very excited about that.
The Sunday Orange and Blue Bloods or something, but the Sunday Blue Bloods kind of sounded like a gang.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to our friend Graham Hall, who's waiting around. Doesn't have any
Graham
time for your business.
Hall.
Sorry, Graham.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Graham, if I do a show, will you come on my show ever?
He's on a contract to me. So.
No, he's not. He's not signed a non-compete.
We got to make it happen.
Yeah.
All right.
So, listen, we only got limited time with you here. We want to make sure.
Call me.
I will.
While Brendan's doing his personal business and soliciting my guests, let me just say, it was quite an interesting weekend with all the upsets and, of course, what happened in Florida. Now it's getting serious about what's going to happen to this team. You're very good at digging in. You have a nice objective mind. You see things differently. By the way, in your old beat of recruiting, they lit it up with recruiting, even though they lost this past weekend. So, give me your take on the game. Tell me where you thought Florida fell short. We know Anthony Richardson had a bad night, so he played terrible. And where do they go from here, and what does it look like in recruiting?
Yeah, I think the recruiting front is extremely positive for Billy Napier. I mean, he continues to bring in top talents, whether it was getting Cormani McClain here for the opener, getting Desmond Ricks, and then this past weekend getting Keon Keeley out of Tampa.
I like that guy. I hope they get him.
Yeah, extremely intelligent, and if Florida can get him, I think that'd be, not going to say he's the pearl of the class necessarily, but that is certainly up there, not to disrespect anyone else. I mean, it's hard to do better than that guy, but I'm sure he also was watching that Notre Dame score as they were losing to Marshall, the program that he decommitted from recently. If Florida can end up landing him, and they also had DJ Lagway on campus, the quarterback prospect for 2024 that many people have leaning towards the Gators, but of course a lot of work to be done there. But as for the actual game itself, it was not, I think, what the 993,000 people in attendance for, or the recruits were there to see necessarily. Many people had bestowed, Anthony Richardson is this guy who was going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate from the jump. And I think that if you had watched him at the high school level and throughout, I think, early on in his Florida career, you knew that this was a dynamic athlete. But when it came to become a true quarterback, I think that a lot of people did have the opinion that there was a lot of work to be done. In high school, he had not been running a true pro-style offense. He never really had worked on his quarterback mechanics, his footwork. For as impressive as he was, taking off and running, throwing on the run, he is often, I think, overly reliant on his arm strength at times. And when you get into an obvious passing down and a defense is able to drop 8 into coverage and can really, force you to make a throw, I think that's where Richardson struggles right now. Like I said, too reliant on his arm, has to continue improving his mechanics, his footwork, and that is, what it's going to take for him to be a top-notch quarterback. He already is an impressive athlete with a lot of the traits that you want, the leadership, obviously, the accountability. You saw that after the game. But when it comes to making the throw, he still has a lot of work to do right now, and I think that, unfortunately, Kentucky took advantage of that. There was the pick six, obviously, and then the interception on the play where, Kentucky gets it on the 6-yard line. It looks like they're trying to run a play action rollout to the right-hand side of the field and just completely just throws it right into the defender's arms. I mean, they handed 14 points to the Wildcats right there. And so not to, pile on Richardson right now, but I think this was a microcosm of what he needs to work on moving forward.
I've got a couple questions here real fast I'm going to go to. I'm not going to keep you real long tonight, but thanks for coming on the show as usual. I've gotten a number of questions about Trent Whittemore, and I too wondered what happened. Trent didn't get any targets. I think he's got one ball. It was targeted one time in 2 games. I haven't heard if he's injured. I understand Shane says he wasn't, and I'm surprised. I thought in playing against the zone like they did, he's the guy that can get into the pockets. He's got that ability to get himself open in the zones. Have you heard anything about him, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't think it's obviously a talent thing or really, anything indicative of where Trent is right now. I think it really is kind of an issue with Florida's wide receiver core. He kind of is labeled as a slot guy, and that's the same position.
I don't know why he's in a slot. I don't get that, but you're right. He plays Pearsall's position, and Pearsall's the best they got. But I don't understand why they can't move him to the outside playing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that you should attempt to move him outside and get him on the field. I think that he is more talented than some of the guys that they're playing ahead of him. I think that, Justin Shorter is a really good wide receiver. Obviously, the physical traits. But right now Richardson is not hitting his wide receivers right now. He's not hitting the guys when they're open. He's missing guys. He's zeroing in on his first read. And so regardless of the personnel that is on the sideline, he's not even hitting the guys who are out there. And that is a difficult situation. You have a guy like Xavier Henderson who has 4.4 speed and great size, great hands. And he's, often the top target in this offense ahead of a guy like Ricky Pearsall. It's a difficult situation right now, and until you actually have a productive rapport between quarterback and receiver, it really, the personnel is a little bit regardless to me right now, as talented as I think Trent is in this
the receivers did their job pretty well too. They were open, and Anthony couldn't get the ball to them. I do like this idea there. Ellis Hull says move Trent to tight end. They play a lot of trips too.
I think that with the tight end situation, a lot of people maybe were oversold what Dante Zanders can bring to the offense, because both those guys, Dante Zanders and Keon Zipper, are very talented blocking tight ends. They don't really have a pure pass catcher at tight end, and that's going to make it even more difficult for Florida to be a productive, passing attack right now. is having those guys out there a lot of the time, and they're not really necessarily really threats in the passing game.
Right. I guess you may have heard that Jesse Calderon is asking, what's the news on Shane? Shane is the new quarterback coach of the XFL franchise in Orlando. It starts in January.
Wonderful.
I talked to Shane now. He's not allowed to discuss it yet because of the contract situation. But he said he'll be going there in January, and he'll be back in like March. He'll be doing his radio show right along or whatever. So congratulations to Shane, who's the son of a coach, always loves coaching, wanted to coach again, coached high school ball around Gainesville. So Shane's doing a good job on his show, caught up with Matthews, and we're really happy for him. So here they are. They're 1-1, not necessarily behind schedule, with a game they should win on Saturday to go 2-1, and then they roll the dice up in Knoxville with a chance to be 3-1. If they could come out and get out of this 3-1, they have a really good run. They're not getting anybody injured. The quarterback position, obviously, they didn't do the rest job of coaching him, and Anthony did not play well. What do you see happening here? Where they go from here? What's the trajectory? Do you think they'll come out of Tennessee being 3-1?
For USF, they have to get Richardson's confidence back going into Tennessee. I think that's of prime importance. You have to absolutely get this guy to establish himself back on the field. Can't have turnovers, has to have success through the air, has to establish himself with his legs, show that he's not injured. I think that is something that would give me a lot of confidence that they can go into Knoxville and knock off a Tennessee team that I think is a little bit overrated right now. They have a fantastic offense. Hendon Hooker is great. Cedric Tillman is great. But that defense is not particularly scary to me. Overly talented, I think, is a better descriptor. But I think that if Florida can get a little bit of momentum this week and then go into Knoxville, I do like their odds, even with 100,000 screaming volunteers up there. But this is an overrated Tennessee team. I'd said in my preseason picks that I was going with Kentucky over them in the SEC, and I still stick with that. I think they're a more complete team, a better coach team, and I think that Tennessee is not what people make them out to be. But Richardson has to show me first this Saturday that he can right the ship and get back on track, get some confidence so that he can go in and not be intimidated by the atmosphere up there in Knoxville.
Yeah. And by the way, I got a trivia question for you to go out on, and if you don't get it, the guy behind you will, because he's a four-time trivia champion at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, and he can knock it out of the park. So I'm going to give you this one. I'm not going to let you. I'm going to tell you if you're wrong. Can you tell me right now who's leading passer is in the SEC and who's last? Okay.
Oof. Well, I think Richardson's last, right?
I'm not going to tell you till you guess the other one.
You're not going to tell me.
I'm going to tell you the other one.
I want to say Spencer Rattler.
You think Spencer Rattler is first and Richardson is last? I wouldn't have got this. Well, all right. Stay tuned. I'll tell you after Lauren answers it too. I'll text you and let you know. Anything you're working on 247 that we need to know about?
We got some stuff coming up on USF, just a little bit between between Billy Napier and his mentor and his relationship with the Scots. And we'll have some more stuff tomorrow with the depth chart release. I mean, the big question between Michael Tarquin and, Ben Miller, they can afford to lose those guys for more than a week. They should definitely rest them against the Bulls. But
what sense you got about Miller? Do you think he's going to be long term?
I'm not too sure yet. It's not going to be as bad as last season, but maybe more than a game. So.
Yeah, so it'll be one. Well, we'll see. They need to
we'll know more tomorrow.
Get out, like Coach Spurrier says, most important game is always the next one. So we'll see what happens. And on to Knoxville. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. I think this team will rally. That's what I got a sense of. So, Graham Hall from 247 Sports, always a great pleasure to have you on. The Minister of Information, all the way back to the GNK days. Thank you, Graham.
You know it.
I think the beard and the hair are looking good, buddy.
I'm going to get a trim soon.
No, I think it looks like it is. Leave it. All right?
You're too kind. Y'all take care out there.
All right, Graham Hall, our longtime buddy and friend. He does a really good job on the beat. So, all right, I got to tell you about this. And then we got Lauren Meadows standing by. I don't think I got any of his Marsh's baptisms. I got to do a better job on it. I'll get on tomorrow night. I got to do this. So I'll tell you about my tower. I got chewed out tonight because didn't take a recent picture. I had this food tonight. I had for dinner. And I picked it off my tree. There's some of it. My tree looks awesome. That's a tower, and you can buy those or rent them or pay them on time. If you want to know more information, and one of the things, you go up, you pick out, you pick 3 things, 4 things, 5 things off the tree. You put it together, you make a salad, and it's farm to table. It's really literally what is supposed to be the healthiest thing for you. And these are all automatically watered, and there's no fertilizer or anything, whatever. It's indoors, and it's a wonderful little machine. If you're interested, go to buddytowers.com. I promise you I'll tell you more about it soon, about how you can get involved. You can actually make money off of it. So if you want to know how to be a farmer like me and be able to make a wonderful meal from it like this, from your when you do your greens, then you add your meat or whatever you put in it. This is what it looks like. Now, you got to tell me, does that look good, folks? I would say so. It was delicious. So, get your own stuff. Get your own greens. Go to buddytowers.com and check it out. Time now to go back to the orange and blue, soon to the orange and blue blood room. It's the gray, it's the green room still, where we find our friend Lauren Meadows, who's always got something good and topical to talk about. Let's see what Lauren Meadows has got, and if you can answer the trivia question. Even to your 4-time Spurrier champion, think you can get that question?
Yeah, I think I got it.
Now, wait, you Google it. You can't Google it now. That's not fair.
No, I didn't Google it. Oh, God, I'm drawing a blank, but I'm going to say last is Anthony Richardson, and first is the kid from Georgia.
Nope. I'll tell you, and I was surprised at this too. According to the information I have, LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels, leading passer in the SEC among qualifying quarterbacks. 177
yardage or
it just says leading passer rating, so I guess that means everything. The rating.
QBR, okay, QBR,
yeah,
okay.
So,
I thought you meant yardage.
Richardson's last, so anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting. You don't expect that, right? So
yeah.
So we were in the press box together, and after the game, you hoity-toity down with all the rich folks during the game, and so I don't get a chance to see you. But we had some questions about the crowd. I won't say they were flat; they just weren't as sharp as they were earlier. By the way, Aaron Judge hit his 57th home run just now. 57th. Can you imagine that? Unbelievable. So how was it down in the crowd?
It was pretty good. I think that everybody was fired up. I had a friend of mine from Ohio, his first experience in the swamp, and he was pretty impressed with the way the crowd is in tune with the different cheers and that kind of thing. And I mean, like I said, I know it was not. You could see the empty pockets in the stadium, but I thought the crowd was engaged. Obviously, some of the mishaps, they were really rocking after the safety, and then I think after that interception, it kind of came out of nowhere. The kid made a great play, and then it kind of started to kind of taper off from there. So, but I mean, like I said on Sunday, there's guys that if you want that smoke. It doesn't matter. I mean, the crowd, we expect our crowd to be lively. But, I thought that it was for an SEC game against a team like Kentucky where it kind of had rained a little bit, but not a lot of rain. I just think that, as you look, I was one of those people that was a little skeptical about Florida decreasing the capacity of the stadium. It'll probably be 4 or 5 years from now. But maybe that's the answer is, because I just think people can, sit back with a cold one, TV, and just kind of do their own thing and flip back and forth. There's a couple other decent games on, and I just think that that's where we are now. So, I think it was new with Utah, but I just think that's where the, unfortunately, the state of college football attendance is right now.
Okay, I have another question for you if you're ready. Shout out to you
sir.
From Gene McLean says, welcome Coach Meadows to the show. And Andy McIntosh says, how can Bryce Young be 9? Well, don't get too excited about it. this is just
Yeah, it's a long way to go. And Bryce didn't have a great game Saturday. So,
by the way, you have a far-reaching audience. Not only do we have a huge crowd now following us, we got Jane of the North in Alaska tuning in tonight. Our longtime listener, sometimes contributor to Gator Bait, and she's checking in tonight. So, hello, Jane. All right, here's the second part of your question. All right, you're pretty smart now. I have to start checking you out because I'm getting a little tired of these reports. You and Coach Spurrier talking the other night. Mrs. Spurrier giving you a big hug. Said, "Yeah, I know, Lauren. Yeah." So here you go. So here's the second part of this. 7 D1 schools have yet to throw a touchdown pass. Can you name any of them?
Florida.
That's
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 7 that have not thrown. Well, I'm going to probably say all 3 service academies.
Yeah, I don't have the list. Let me just tell you who the other one is. USF hasn't thrown one either. So somebody ought to break some kind of record. Now, going back to it, there could have easily been one on that too. Was it Johnson was ruled out of the bounds at the 2? I still think he should. Against Utah, I think he scored whatever. So.
Well, and USF has pretty good receivers too. Matter of fact, so their receivers are pretty good. They got some of the American Conference's best receivers. So that's kind of interesting. I hadn't paid attention to that, but so they didn't throw a touchdown pass against Howard, huh?
Apparently not. Apparently not.
All right.
All right. Okay. So, what's your thoughts about Shane becoming a coach in the XFL?
I think that's awesome. Shane definitely knows a lot about football. He and I kind of think alike, I think, from an offensive standpoint and what we expect from a football team. And obviously Shane is accomplished quarterback at the college and pro level. Even though, he kind of downplays it. Anybody that's sharp enough to last for 14 seasons, obviously somebody thought enough of him to have him in the quarterback room for that long. And, I think it's an opportunity for him to really get in there, get his feet wet. And, I mean, it's not what you know sometimes, it's who you know. And Shane obviously knows a lot of people, but he also knows a lot of football too. So, I mean, if people like him on the radio, I would not get used to it if he gets back into coaching because he could be coaching on Sundays if he wants to. I don't know if that's a goal of his down the road. Yeah. But I look for him to get in there, really, really impress those guys at the next level and kind of parlay his way into somebody's quarterback room at some point in time. I think he's that good.
All right, so you live in Gainesville, and you know now what life is like there for Gator fans. You and your beautiful wife, Marcia, have been doing the recruiting and being ambassadors for the Orange and Blue Bloods, which, by the way, soon we'll be able to tell you more about that. It's going to be a group, without a doubt. And I'm sorry I don't have any of her recent recordings of doing that. Well, we can probably find one of the old ones. And Marcia and Jen are doing a tremendous job of getting people baptized, and what do you want to call it, as an Orange and Blue Blood. And it's very simple to do. You have to do the pledge, which is just simply raise up your hands and do this, and then say, I believe in the boys and girls of Florida in all kinds of weather, and I won't back down. And you chomp, and you're a blue blood. So how did it go down there?
It was great. We baptized quite a few people in the tailgate area down south of the stadium, and then when we got into the stadium, a couple good big group of individuals from Jacksonville. They've been loyal fans for almost 70 years as a collective. They took the pledge, and then we had a former UF band member that sits down in front of us. She was very excited to take the pledge, so it's going pretty well. People are excited. They kind of ask, "What is this about?" And we just tell them, this is just reaffirming your fandom, your commitment to the Gators. And, you look at, as much as we talk about the Boo Birds and some of those people, that's about 1% of the total fan population. I mean, I think most of the people we come in contact with are lock, stock, and barrel behind the Gators. And I think that's something that's going to carry this football program for the next 4 to 5 years, get us where the fans expect. And everybody's the same way. I mean, everybody's got their Monday morning quarterbacks and things like that. But I think that it's definitely a good thing that's going on. And I think once we really get it involved, you look at I heard you talk about the increase in connections and viewership. I think all that's going to go a long way to really set this thing up to be pretty big.
Let's see if I got this. I can't get it on the screen, but. Okay, that's one. Now here's
that's Michaela. That's the former UF band member.
Yeah, we'll have that in better shape next time we do it. But let me go ahead and show Jen, because I think really right now is probably the most important time. This is that other side of all kinds of weather. If you profess your loyalty right now, I think it'll be appreciated. Here's how you do it right. Here's Marcia and Jen.
Okay, we'll find later on what.
Sorry, that's unfortunately me. I don't want that. Hang on.
Gator fans?
We don't want. That's the one we do in the quarterback club. Hold on a second. I'm gonna find the one. So the idea is that they're doing this and leading it, and people ask me all the time, well, how do I get involved? What do I do? What are the words? Whatever. The words are very important, and it's just like it's like kind of like if you went to church and renewed, you did a profession of faith, and if you got with your spouse, you want to renew your vows. It's just to set the things straight and let the main thing be the main thing, right? Which is, you don't have to say I'll never criticize the Gators again. You don't have to say any of that. It's just, where are you in your commitment to being a Gator fan? Because right now, they need something. I don't find Marcia's right now. We'll have to do that next time. But anyway, good job by Marcia and you in the stands, and good job of writing those previews and analysis. If you haven't read Lauren's stuff, you need to do that. He's our football analyst at Gator Bait and does a terrific job sizing things up. He's out there, talks to players, knows people, got to know some of the folks on the team. So here's my final thought about the game on Saturday night. Here's one reason things didn't go too well. This is because it was a full moon, okay? And that was a shot by Brendan Martin right there on the full moon. And wacky things happened in the full moon, and it did happen kind of unusual. But that full moon is gone. Time now to move on. So your thoughts about this weekend's game?
I just think that, like I said on Sunday, I'm not sure that Florida came in with a great game plan. I think they went away from, like I said, sometime, man, you had J.J. Weaver come out and kind of issue a challenge to Anthony Richardson. And if I had to pull Anthony Richardson aside, I would say, hey, man, you got to take that personal. So what I mean by that is, with him dropping back to pass and some of those things, a couple times I might have dropped back to pass and then I eyeballed J.J. Weaver and I'd have made him tackle me. I think that sometimes you can get caught up in playing what, you can play efficient football and still run around a little bit. And I just think that 36 passes is entirely too many passes for this offense right now. And I think
it's the third number I've heard on that. And we've had different numbers, and Shane and I got it wrong this morning. And I had to look it up with Chris Storing earlier. Chris will be on tomorrow night. So just to make sure, because I got it wrong, it's 35 passes. 14
okay.
And I said it wrong, and Shane had it wrong. It was 35, yeah.
So I knew it was 30. Well, it was 36. It was 36. Wasn't it a sack? So 36. He dropped back, and there was one sack.
I guess, 30, but they didn't get the pass off, so yeah.
So
no, he never got sacked. He never got sacked.
Okay, I thought it was one.
Well, I think he ran out of bounds. They counted as a sack, but he never really got sacked.
Okay, yeah. So I think that I just think that there's just too many, and I think that everybody throughout the spring, never expected Anthony Richardson to be dropping back 35 times a game, but also we did expect him to run the ball, anywhere from 8 to 12 times. Right. And I'm not talking about design runs necessarily, but we thought that there would be some opportunities where he would consistently be putting pressure on the defense with his legs. And I think that's, it's one of those things where I was telling somebody before, it's kind of like a shooter. I made the analogy, what do they, buddy, you know sports, what do they tell a great shooter to do?
Keep on shooting.
If he's in a slump.
Keep on shooting.
If your strength is your legs as a quarterback and things aren't going well what should you go to? Using your legs. And Shane people talk about, well, he was a little banged up. Like Shane said, everybody, after the first game, particularly the quarterback.
And Ben Troop said it on Sunday. That's football. You're going to get it banged up.
It's just, and he's a running quarterback. The threat is always for any running quarterback that they're going to get hit, hurt, injured.
Yeah, agreed.
But like you said, the great ones, the Michael Vicks, the Cam Newtons, those guys that, the Tim Tebows, it's just part of the job when that's your skill. So I just think they really need to get back to playing through him. And I also thought they went away from the actual running backs a little bit too. Not just him running the ball, but I thought instead of, get the attempts around 20 to 22 and then give the other 14 plays between Anthony Richardson, give him 7 more runs, and then between the 3 backs, design runs or roll out where he's, if it's not open, take off, and the game can be that simple when you have a young man that's as gifted as Anthony Richardson. But I also think they went away from, Montrell Johnson, Naquan Wright, and Etienne, who's a star to make it. They've got 3 solid backs. I still think Naquan's probably at about 75%, but he's South Florida.
Etienne's coming. Etienne's coming, I tell you.
And Etienne's coming too. Yeah. But you really got to have. I think you got to have. They always say if you got 2 quarterbacks, you got none. You really need 2 to 3 backs, particularly in a league like the SEC.
Looks like it, yeah.
Because they thump you in this league. So you got to get guys in there, and Etienne's definitely coming. Right. You see a lot of big bro in him, but we still. Johnson's a solid back, still a young man, still got braces for carrying on. And then Naquan Wright is that veteran presence. So I just think we got to get back to relying on our running game and get our big linemen going forward, because I think that's what's best.
All right, we're out of time. Good stuff as always. I did find the Marshall Pledge. We're going to go out on it. First, I'm going to tell folks about our friends at RenStar. By the way, if you'd like to be a part of some of the clinical studies they're doing and learn those about medication and medicine, if you've got plaque psoriasis, they're having a program right now where you can get involved in clinical trial. You must be ages 18 to 75, be diagnosed with plaque-type psoriasis, not have any other major conditions in the skin. You could see a dermatologist at no cost, have access to trial medication for psoriasis, and receive compensation for time and travel. So give them a call, 352-629-5800, 352-629-5800, or go to RenStar.net. RenStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of the day. Here's Mars Shinjin going out. Good night. Good job, Lauren. Appreciate it.
See you.
Repeat after me. I believe in the boys and girls of Old Florida.
I believe in the boys and girls of Old Florida.
In all kinds of weather.
In all kinds of weather.
And I won't back down.
And I won't back down.
Chomp.